Greetings, YouTube. Someone today I subscribed to did a short video concerning Anita Blake Vampire Hunter, a series of books by Laura K. Hamilton. Laurel? Well, I can't remember which. And I've actually read some of these books from this series way back when I was reading fiction. I'm not particularly proud of this fact because they are very trashy, and the latter editions that I read were pretty much softcore porn with vampires and werewolves. So if you're into that kind of thing, if you're looking at something that went a little deeper, pun intended, than the whole Kim Myers series, whatever that is called, Twilight, yeah, that's it. You might like to try Anita Blake Vampire Hunter. But I like to use Anita Blake Vampire Hunter as the best example I can think of how the world presented to you in the books makes zero sense. So, in the books, it's the United States of America at the time of the writing, and she has a new one out, so I'm assuming it's current era or close to it. And the difference is that magic is real. It works. The main character, Anita Blake, is a vampire hunter, but she's also a registered necromancer. She raises people from the dead intentionally, mostly to ask them questions and to solve problems and, for example, inheritance issues and things like that. You can ask somebody a question, literally raise them up, talk to them, and then you put them back down. She handles rogue zombies, she helps to hunt them, and she goes after the supernatural as sort of a bounty hunter. And of course, she's incredibly talented at this, beautiful, and the best ass-kicking woman in the universe. Yada, yada, yada. You know, she's every manic pixie dream icon you could want in the vampire werewolf set. But the book talks about magic having existed all through the ages. In fact, at one point in the series, there's a character that's a vampire that is actually an Australopithecus afarensis. Okay, a hominid from 2 million years ago. And it's been a vampire for 2 million years, and of course, Anita Blake kicks his ass. How you do that to someone who's been around that long and gotten that good at what he does is beyond me, but she does. Maybe he's just not as smart as the rest of us. You know, he wasn't as developed. I don't know. But the further you go back in history and you change something, the greater the consequences will be now. So, 2 million years ago, magic functions. What that means is that the first time someone picks up an object, rubs it in a certain way, says a certain phrase, and something happens, from that moment on, history as we know it ends. None of the history that we understand now is going to exist. Ever. The languages will be different. The cultures will be different. The societies will be different. The only thing, you can look at the Earth from orbit and it will look the same. But there will be no countries the same. There will be no nothing the same on this planet. It would be absolutely and utterly alien to us. It would make no sense. It would make no more sense than if the book dropped us on Klingon or Vulcan or any other weird, dropped us into the Warhammer 40k universe. Alright? We would be immersed in something that we had no reference to. There would be humans there, so we'd be, okay, I have humans around me, that makes me feel a little safer. But that's where the connection would end. There would be no United States. There would be no current history. There would have never been the English wars of the Reformation. There would be no Civil War in the United States. There would be no Spartans fighting, the Persians. None of that history would exist. Because you have started so far in the past that it all changes. So if you want to keep our world, or as close to our world as you can get, and throw in the fantastic, you have to make the change very close to our time. What's the GURPS world I'm trying to think of? There's a GURPS world that basically takes place that the nuclear bomb detonation starts magic. That as soon as that device goes off, magic returns to the world at the Trinity site in New Mexico, and it radiates out from that spot, And then the Russians set off another nuclear device in Antarctica to see if the effect repeats, and it does. And Technomancer world. So, magic returns to the world in 1945. So the differences between that world and our world are close enough, are so slight, that you would feel at home. The languages, everything functioned up to 1945, so you would feel at home there. You could live in that world. Shadowrun. Shadowrun's coming up, folks. This coming December is going to be when the end of the world as we know it happens, which is awesome. Very shortly, some of us are going to wake up as elves or orcs or trolls or dwarves, which is going to be interesting. I hope that I get to be a dwarf. Maybe I'll get hair. But if you change history in the far past, you change everything. This would not be our world. I would not be communicating with you in English. I may not have the technology that I'm looking at to communicate with you at all. Especially if it's a world rife with magic. Magitech, a TSR amazing engine world, which I should probably do a review of, deals with that to some extent, because it's a significant difference from our world, but it's still, they make it close enough so that we can connect to it. But at least it accepts that there would be major changes. It is not just our world with magic tacked on. There are differences. Not enough, of course, there very rarely are, but enough to make it a more exotic and interesting world. Nita Blake Bounty Hunter, or Vampire Hunter, is not all that exotic. Yes, it's a world with vampires and zombies and werewolves and all kinds of weird, freaky things, but it's our world with these things tacked on. You can almost see the duct tape holding it all in place. And it's just a justification because the author wants to write about these silly things and free herself from having to deal with actual world history and world events. She can use the fantastic because it draws people in, because it's more interesting, at least in her opinion, than the real world. But frankly, I find the real world pretty darn interesting already. But I like consistency. And when you change history in the past, now is different. And I don't know if I have ever read an author or seen anything that really encompassed the fact that now would be totally different if you change the history of the past. So, I'm asking my viewers out there, have you ever encountered a series or a television show or a movie or anything that really and totally encompassed the concept that if you change the past, the present is different, and they pulled it off with absolute flawless expertise? Or heck, I just take plausibility. Are there any out there that are plausible? I would love to know.